So my name is Matt Nelson. I'm going to be teaching you lighting and modeling for animation this semester. A little bit about myself. I'm a medical artist at Cincinnati Children's. I do animations like surgical animations and animations about the body and health. I do some 3D printing and other kind of art related to 3D in those ways. So we'll be mainly working with Autodesk Maya this semester, a little bit of Photoshop, but mainly learning how to model and light and texture and render out objects in this course. Homework and midterms and finals will be due the last day of class. I want you to bring in your homework the day that I'm assign it to, but like you always have a chance to change or alter work in real life. So I feel that like real life, you should be able to get a second chance if you don't like my review or critique and do it the last day. So the last day of class will be a 15-minute individual one-on-one kind of chat, looking at all your work and giving you grade then. We will have reviews for your finals and midterms on those days, but you will always be able to change those grades if you do not like them. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. What we're going to be doing this semester is we're going to build up and for our midterm to model, light, and render an interior. I'm going to give you some ideas what I want you to do, but you can change it if you want. I just need to get approval of the image that you're going to reference. And then for your final, you'll be doing a self-portrait. For the first few weeks, I'll be looking at your models through Sketchfab. It's a free online viewer, and it's an easy way for me to see all of your models and review it without you needing to email it to me, and I have to unzip the file and open it up and all that hassle. So at the end of the class, I'll be explaining how to upload some of your models on Sketchfab and make it look presentable. You don't have to pay for Sketchfab. Sketchfab is free. There are ways to go around there, like one upload per month. If you make it a free upload, you can upload as many as you want. So that's what we'll be doing for at least the first half of the semester. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, all right. Since we're doing a mix between in-person and online, if you are feeling under the weather, please stay home and log in via Zoom. Just email me, give me the heads up. I don't want you to come here and get everyone else sick. Hopefully I'm recording the lecture right now. I normally use OBS on my computer, but I'm using Zoom's record. Hopefully this will work and I can upload it to YouTube. I'm gonna make a playlist for all you guys to look and watch the class afterwards. If this doesn't work, I might try and do something to get this to work, but for right now, I'm gonna try and use Zoom to record out everything. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we start the lecture?
Just double checking. It's okay that we have no face cam, right? If we're on Zoom.
I'd prefer if you have a camera, just so I can see that you're actually there. But if you can't, I guess it's not the end of the world. Those who just came in, have that door open. All right, no problem. but if you don't, I guess that's okay. Well, past the year, I was on Zoom and it just seemed that like people would walk away from the camera. So I kind of want you guys to have a camera and just so I can make sure that you're paying attention. Who's never used Maya before? Just 3. Who's never modeled in Maya before? Okay, so what I'm going to do is start from the beginning, like as if you never open Maya, and gradually progress throughout the course. Sorry for those who know how to model. This first day or 2 might be a little boring, but it's best if everyone is up to speed. Cool. All right. So this is Maya. It's a very like robust software. It has a lot of aspects to it. You can model, you can animate, you can rig, you can more or less do everything that you want in it. Some aspects aren't the best and you use other software and then import it, but normally Maya is the end root of everything for an animation. To navigate in the software, scrolling in and out will zoom in and out of the camera. Holding Alt and middle mouse, you can pan left and right, up and down. If you hold Alt and left click, you can rotate around. Those are the basic of navigating through this 3D scene. If you press spacebar, it'll bring up 4 views. This is the perspective view, this is the top view, front and side. You can switch by just hovering over like one of these views and pressing spacebar, you'll jump into those locations. Up here is some of the poly primitives. These are primitive shapes that you start your modeling with, spheres, cubes, cylinders. You can create them right here. There's also up here and to create polygon primitives, spheres, all these other ones. And if you hold shift and right click, you have them up here. A lot of Maya is redundant. You can find things and do things a lot of the ways, like in multiple different locations. It's really up to your preference. I normally try as much as possible, hold down shift and right click. This is the marquee menu. It's a lot easier and quicker to get into this section than moving my mouse over here or going up to create polygons right here. If you're working for 8 hours, 10 hours in a day, like cutting down small things will definitely speed up your workflow. So I'm going to go and create a cube. And over here, this is the channel box. This has the information of where the object is in the scene. So you can see that translate X, Y, Z, rotate X, Y, Z. They're all zeroed out and the scale is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You can move your object by pressing W while it's selected and you get these 3 arrows. And if you hold them and move it, left click and drag, it will move up and down the object in that axis. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. Pressing E will do the rotate. So this changed to this kind of sphere with these circles around it. So it'll do the exact same thing. I can rotate this in the different rotation values, and you can see that on the right, those values can change. You can individually type in those values. So I typed in 50 and it moves my box 50 units from the origin of the world. And you can zero them out by, you can select multiple by clicking on one of the boxes, holding shift and selecting the next box. And those boxes are all then selected, and I can go and press like 0 to zero out the object. To zoom into an object or frame it, you can press F. So you can see that I pressed F and I zoomed and snapped to the object. And now when I rotate, it's going to rotate around the center of this object. Does that make sense? And scale is R. And same thing, we can change the scale value of this object. So that's the basics of just creating an object and moving it around in the scene. You can easily duplicate an object by pressing Control and D. And you can see right here, this is the outliner. It created a copy of this object. And now I can move it and I have 2 objects. You can also do it by holding Shift and dragging. It will then create another object of the same thing. You can change the name of your objects. Right here, it's just default pCube1. If I click that, I can call it like mesh box 01. And you can see that the name is changed on the side. Starting off, you don't have to name objects as much, but when you start working in production and you have lots of objects in your scene, naming things is extremely important. Imagine having like 15 of these boxes in your scene and not knowing like which one is which. It's very difficult. It'd be easier if you had like, all right, this is this box right here and you can select it easier. But right now we're just gonna be modeling normally simple single objects, so you don't have to name it for right now. You can delete an object by pressing delete. Undo is Control Z. Up top right here, there's a few things that you might want to look at. This is the wireframe. It will change all the objects in the scene to be just the wireframe so you can see through them. Right here, we'll make it gray again. This one is the color. We'll make everything, just this default gray. This will have the wireframe on it, but still shaded. This is color, and then a few others that we don't have to worry about at the moment. There's hotkeys to that. 6 will change it from texture to not texture. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to create a cube. And there's lots of ways that you can start working on a project object. You can start with a cube, you can start with a cylinder. I normally go and think, right, what's the basic shape of this object? So I'm going to go and make a house. So a house is kind of square-ish, and so I'm going to make a cube. And over here, if I scroll down on the channel box, you can see this inputs right here. It says polycube1, and it has some attributes. If I go and increase the subdivision level right here to 5, it's going to increase the edges of our object 5. Like we'll have like 5 edge loops throughout it. And those are ways that you can alter your object. Having more edges and pulling, extruding them. So normally you try to want to work as low as possible, and then you can start building up. But if you know, like, well, I need a few, like you might want to just start with having like 2 edges on all sides. So your object is a little bit more high poly. So now I'm going to start and think about, all right, how do I make this house? I need to make kind of a roof, ceiling roof on it. So I want to extrude this up. So if you right click your object, this bounding box will pop up right here, vertex. So I have to right click and hold, and this will pop up. Oops. Vertex will highlight all the vertices, and a vertex is like the intersection of edges, these little dots in your object. Edges is an edge, so this is right here an edge, it's a flat line that goes between vertices. And a face is like what is between multiple edges and vertices. So you can manually move and adjust these vertices, edges, and faces. So for me, I'm going to go and right click vertex and select these middle vertices and raise up these middle ones. So now we have the point of a house. Then I'm going to go to the face, and I'm going to select multiple faces by selecting one, shift selecting the next, shift selecting the third and fourth. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude these faces. And extruding is a way of like adding more faces to your object in a certain degree. So there's multiple ways of extruding. You can go and switch over to scale and shift and drag it in a certain direction. So if I go and shift and move this right here, you can see that now I've created faces right here and extrude it out. And I can also move up and adjust this. So now I have more of a like arrow to my house. You can also go right here. This is the extrude tool. It'll give you a dialog box where you can increase by a certain amount, and this is more uniform than with scaling it. Thickness and translate Z do similar things. Sometimes translate Z works better than thickness. Sometimes if I'm trying to extrude a certain area, thickness might like extrude faces in a weird direction. So it's up to you how you want to adjust that. And then you can also drag out your extrusion. You can see how as I move this blue arrow, the translate Z value will increase. So I am just going to extrude it out just a slight amount. Right here. So I'm going to shift, right click, and this is another way to extrude the face. I prefer to do this way because it's right like where my mouse is instead of going and hunting down the direction. So you can see that I select these 4 faces, shift, right click, extrude face. And then I can increase this thickness by clicking on the value, left click, and then moving it, dragging it left or right, moving it in or out. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. So now what I can do is, instead of just adding them like to a like a face, just to kind of bulge out like this, you can also extrude just individual faces. So like right here, I'm selecting these two and I press G. G will repeat your last application, your last tool that you've done. So since I extruded right before I did this, it's going to prompt the extrude tool. So I'm going to do a thickness, so I can do like 0.2. And see how I extrude it out like a side instead of extrude it out like from the center. And I'm going to do the same thing, press G or shift right, extrude face, thickness 0.2. So you can see that I'm slowly building up this house by starting low with a low amount of edges and slowly building up. Now I'm going to extrude out this. So I can once again press G for extrude and do thickness, or since it's like in line with my object, I can hold shift and with the translate, extrude it out. There's lots of ways to extrude and like adjust your model. Like what I said before, it's not just a single action will do one thing. You have to kind of like feel up how you are modeling and what tools you kind of like and work with your workflow. So now I made the roof. And now what I want to do is I want to make a window in my house. Oh, sorry. So I want to add a edge loop right here, and right here. So I have a little box for my window. So if you think what I gotta do is I gotta go down to this polycube and add more width and height. Well, once you start adjusting your mesh, you can't go back to this section because the software thinks of your object as a square, and adding more subdivisions will confuse it. So all I have to do is undo. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and add an edge loop by shift, right click, multi-cut tool. You can also find that, I think, right here. It's in this poly modeling tool or mesh tool, multi-cut tool. Like what I said, these things are in lots of places, but I normally work in this marquee menu because it's always like all the important tools are right here by my mouse. So this tool is what, like this and extruding are more or less the two tools that I use to make nearly 90% of all my objects. Extruding and cutting and adjusting edges is really pretty much what you want it to do. Let me go, if you go to window, sorry. Windows, General Editor, Tool Settings right here. This is the tool setting palette. I normally keep it docked next to the outliner. So you can just click and drag like a normal window. And if you scroll down to the bottom, this has a bunch of the hotkeys for the multi-cut tool. So you can see left middle mouse button, click to drop an edge point, and blah, blah, blah. So what I wanted to do is I want to create an edge loop. So an edge loop is a loop that goes around your object as much as it can. So if I hold down Control, you can see that now this orange loop goes around our object. And if I click left mouse click, it now adds an edge loop to my object. So I want this edge loop to be straight because I want my window to extrude out straight. So what you can do is just click these edges individually, or what you can do is if you double click an edge, it'll try and do the entire loop. Sometimes you might have to click the edge and shift click the one next to it, and it'll then follow that direction of the path. So like right here, if I go and double click this, it's going to go around the loop. But if sometimes I might also have to shift and double click down one, and it'll select the entire loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click this edge loop right here, and I want this to be level, in line with each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the scale tool. With this selected, selecting being orange, I'm going to take the bar that's in line with what I want it to be and scale, move it down as far as it can. And once it gets to the zero, the middle, it'll stop moving. And now you can see that this this edge loop is in line. Does that make sense, everyone? Yes. Yeah. So went over and selected our object, shift, right click to multi-cut tool. I held down control, and this is where you can add your edge loop. So I'm going to place it anywhere. It doesn't really matter where I place it. And then I'm going to press W for move. Double click this edge, R for scale, and then take this bar right here and scale it down so it's now level. You can see that if I go into one of these front side views and go into right here, you can see that now this is level with itself. So now I can easily move it up or down anywhere in this line. However, you have to keep this bar. You don't have to, but 99%. You want this edge loop to be between this vertice and this vertice, because if you go below, you're going to have problems in the future. If you press 3, you can see that pressing 3 subdivides it, and you can see that you're starting to get this weird black line, and it's because the face is actually below the other face and it's overlapping. It's causing issues. So you don't want to do that. So you just want to make sure that your edges are like in between the proper vertices. So right now I placed it in line where I want it to be. And now I have 2 parallel vertices. If I go back to multi-cut tool, I want to go and create another 2 edge loops. So I can easily just go and hold down control and add loops right here. Since this box right here is parallel to each other, these lines will be parallel with it. So this is now like a like a square rectangle. These lines aren't square, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not dealing with these edges. So this right here is fine for me. So what I want to do is now create a little window. So I can either like delete the face, and now you have a hole, but like since these 3D models are like paper thin, you only have weight if it has like size to it. I would suggest not to. So like what we can do is like we can like extrude it out to make a or extrude it back in. So now we have a little bit of a window, at least a window hole. Or what we can do is we can like go and add some multiple edges around and like create a window box. like extrude this one out a little bit. Select these faces right here. Extrude it up. Shift, drag, extrude this out. So now you have a little bit more of a window box. So imagine if you wanted to add some depth right here. You would think, oh, all I have to do is select these two and shift and extrude this out. Yes, right now it looks fine, but what you have is you have two faces touching each other, because on the opposite side right here has a little face like this, and it's butt up against this face. So a way to fix this is either beforehand plan and have an extra edge loop right here and extrude this along with those with these. Or what you can do is like extrude this out. I'm going to then extrude these two faces out again. And then start deleting these faces. So now you have like no face facing the inside of the house. Now what I want to do is fill in this hole. So to fill in the hole, what you have to do is select edge. And what you can easily do is go, well, I go and right click, fill hole. Shift right click, fill hole. Well, yes, that does work, but now you have a face that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sides. In Maya and most almost all 3D softwares, you want to stay with try and keep with quads or triangles. You don't want to have 5 more than 4 sides, mainly because we'll be subdividing our objects later on in the course. And if I press 3, that subdivides the object, and you can start seeing like weird artifacts like right here. You can kind of see a little like pinch. And it's because the software doesn't quite understand what to do with these edges. So all we have to do is either right click multi-cut tool and draw. So I'm going to left mouse click this edge, and you can see how it creates a vertice right here, and it has the percentage of where it is. I want to drag it up to the top or bottom. Right now I'm going to the top, and it just becomes yellow, and let go of my mouse and drag to another side, which will create 4 sides, and drag it to the far left side, and then right click, and that will execute adding an edge. So you now see that I have in this face 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So I'll do the same thing, multi-cut. I'll go right here, add an edge. And in the bottom. So this is 4. And now this side has 4 sides, but it's not the best angle. And we're kind of not really using this and this edge like super properly. So I wanted to delete these edges. So you can easily go and press backspace to delete edges. But what you'll see is if you go to the vertex mode, vertices are left behind, which are sometimes good, sometimes bad. 90% of the time they're bad. A lot of times I'll just delete an edge and leave the vertice if I know I'm going to like use that vertice location to create another edge loop with something else. But most of the time, what I want to do is just completely delete those edges and vertices all at once. So what I'll do is select these edges that I want to delete, shift right click, and then delete edges. So you can see now those edges are deleted. Yes. Okay. So right 90 fingers crossed, it should be being recorded. I will email the YouTube link tonight or tomorrow. Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. So now you can see that all these vertices are deleted. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions so far? Shift right click and in edge mode, shift right click, delete edge. So you can see that all these tools that I'm using a lot are right next to the center. It's because these are like the tools that you'll normally be using. It'll speed up your process. You can find these up here in these like the mesh or mesh tools like edit mesh. Delete edge for like it's over here. Like I don't know where they really are because I really don't use these as much. Marquee menu, like make it a habit to use the marquee menu. It'll definitely save you plenty of time instead of hunting down and you don't know which menu folder it is. Any questions so far? Nope. All right. So I'm going to now go and create like the panels between the windows. So with the multi-cut tool, you can, if you hold down Control and Shift, it'll like snap to percentages and you can change those percentages. So like if I do 50%, it's always going to be stuck in the middle. Or if I go and do 25%, Control, Shift, it'll be at the 25s. So similar to our last problem, I want to create something that goes from here to here. But if I just extrude this out like this, I'm going to have faces touching each other. And if you press 3, you can see that it causes issues like this, like they're not connected. So another way that you can solve that issue is by deleting the faces. And bridging the gaps. So you can see that I selected an edge. So I right click edge, select this edge, shift select another edge. And then I shift right click bridge. And what it does is it creates a face between those two selected edges. And so right here, I can go and select this face and this face, press G because I bridged just previously. And again, G. Does that make sense, everyone? Yep, cool. So in life, everything kind of has like a rounded edge. Nothing is extremely sharp like this. So when you're starting to model, think about that as you model, and a tool that will help solve those to create rounded edges is the bevel tool. So what I did is I select edge, and I'm going to select these edges. So what I can do is select this one, shift select this one, shift select this one. If I skip these three and select this edge right here and double click, it's going to select everything in between the two. Shift, shift. These are like quick ways of individually selecting edges. And then if I go and hold down shift, right click, and go and press bevel, this box will pop up. And it has fraction segments. These two are the main values that you'll be messing around with. So fraction is the percentage of from this edge and this edge, how far is the bevel, the roundness going to go. So if I select and middle mouse drag left and right, you can see that as I go to 1, it's getting more round, or more like larger of a roundness. Segments is the how many like loops. So if right now with 1, it's only making a single face. If I increase this, you can see that now it's going to be creating more faces as I have a fall off. So the big key is make sure that your edges have are rounded, because this right here looks significantly more realistic or just natural than this right here. This just looks like it's from a software. It doesn't look, nothing is ever this straight and sharp. You want to have some sort of round bevelness. It doesn't have to be a single like face that you're beveling. So if I want to bevel this and this, like the entire windowsill, I can select all these edges. And bevel them all at once. And sometimes it's best to do it all at once, because you can see how right here, the corner beveled itself to be rounded at the side, compared to before when I just did this right here. It created this just this line right here, and if I try to then bevel this right here, it's going to have a different look to it. So sometimes you want to have it look like this, and sometimes you don't. It's kind of up to your taste and what it looks like. An issue with beveling is it then creates faces with like more than 4 sides. So you can see we're here, it created this face with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then all you have to do is either go and, if it's like, you go and make it 4-sided. So right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have a 3-sided. It's fine. And you can see that like it works a little bit better than when if it was 5-sided. Right here, it automatically created this. Sometimes I'll go and like fix it and like move the edges up right here. Just works a little bit better down the line. Does anyone have any questions? No. Right here is the display, and you can create layers like in Photoshop with objects in it. So right here, this will create a layer, and you can put things in it. So if I have this object selected and create a layer, it's going to automatically be placed in that object, in that layer. So you can see in the inputs, it has layer 2 in it. You can delete the layer, or you can add objects to layers by selecting the object, right click the layer, and then add selected object. You can see that it's in layer 1. Clicking the V will make it invisible. So when there's no V, it's invisible. When it has V, it's visible. Right here, this third tablet is T is template, so it becomes grade and wireframe, and R is reference. It's unselectable. It's making a reference, so you can't really affect it. So a lot of times, if I'm like making a scene, I like what this object, where it is, or what it looks like, I'll put it in a layer and reference it. So if I'm selecting multiple things, it's not being selected. Questions about that? No? Okay. Another tool that I like to use making things like bottles, wine glasses, things that kind of revolve or around like a center object, is creating a curve. So I went right here to curve surfaces, clicked on this one right here. Tool settings, you can do 3, cubic is good. 3, Bezier has the little like bars, the Bezier bars, they can adjust later on. Cubic is fine for right now, but I went into the front mode, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw half of a wine glass. So I'm going to start and draw stem. So you can see I have half the object. I have some spots where I don't like the shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click the object, control vertex, and it pops up the vertices of the object. So you can manually adjust them. If you think you have too many, you can go and press the backspace and delete one. But the big thing is I want the start and end to start and begin in the center of the world. And the hotkeys for that is if you hold down X, you can see that this right here, the magnet with the grid is highlighted. That's grid snap, and it will snap to the grid. You can do this with polygons. If you want to move things around to the grid, hold down X. V is vertex snap. So that's the vertices of like the object. So if you want to make, if you're polymodeling something and you want to make sure that it's in line with all the vertices, you can hold down V and snap them around. But all I'm doing right now is I'm going to hold down X and snap it to the center of the world. Right here, I can go and select like these two, scale them together, hold down X. This one, this one, this one. Scale them together, hold down X, snap them right here. I can select these two right here and scale them together so they're in line. Move this one up a little bit. So this and this, I'm going to scale this together so they're a little closer. These two right here, I'll scale them. I'll make sure this one is on this grid. All these right here, I want them to be in line with each other. So I'm going to select them all, scale them together, hold down X, snap it to the grid. Same thing with these two. This and this. So now I have a curve of a wine glass. It's only half of it. And what now I want to do is I want to revolve this around 360 degrees. So if you're right here, we want to go to curves, surfaces, extrude. Oh, sorry. Revolve. I think it's the y-axis. We want polygons. I want 360 degrees. I want quads. And I want count. Count will make our object be uniform. If I just do general, standard fit, I'll do both and show you the difference. And I'll press apply. And you can see that with standard fit, it maintains quality where it needs, but it creates more than like right here. This is a 6-sided face. This is a 6-sided face. And that's not what we want. I want count, and I'll do like what, 400. You can increase it to whatever you want. But you can see that now at 400, they're all quads and it's uniform. If you think that you want a little bit more detail, we can bump it up to like 1000. Apply. Now it's a little bit more detailed. So once you're done with that, you can go to back to polymodel and delete the history. And now you have your vase or wine glass. And you can do that a lot with a lot of different objects. If you want, like if you were doing like an ornament maybe, or some sort of like wall mount detail and only want to go like half, so you do 180, you can press apply, and it's only going to do half of it. So then you can like attach it to the wall or something else. You can do little different things if you know your object's going to be somewhat like uniform. Any questions? No. So for the next half an hour, I want you guys to go and make a house. And I'll walk around answering questions that you guys have. Okay?
I don't know if it's just me, but I was wondering, did you put your class on UC Canvas yet? Or
I'm not gonna, do you need me to use the Canvas? I really haven't used it in the past. Most of what we're gonna be doing is I'm gonna be emailing you the class assignments and sending you your grades through email. Is that all right?
yeah, that's good. I was just making sure.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine.